What if the most important freedom you'll ever gain is already inside you, and you've simply forgotten how to use it? Marcus Aurelius, writing in the solitude of battlefields and palace chambers, offered one of the most powerful reminders in all of Stoic thought. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. It's a sentence that has echoed for centuries because it confronts the root of suffering and the key to serenity. In a world where we try to fix everything around us, our jobs, our relationships, our circumstances, Marcus Aurelius pulls our attention inward, where true power lies. The Stoic does not deny that the world is chaotic or that pain is real. But they refuse to believe that peace must depend on the outside world being perfect. Instead, they train themselves to respond rather than react, to manage thoughts like a gardener tends a fire, knowing that a disciplined mind is the only fortress that cannot be breached by misfortune. In modern life, we are taught that happiness comes from success, status, or stability. But the emperor-philosopher reminds us, even if everything falls apart, your mind remains yours. How you interpret events, how you judge their weight, how you choose to speak, act, or remain silent, this is your domain. And it is in reclaiming that domain and becoming the master of your inner response that you uncover a strength that no storm can shake. Marcus didn't write to impress others, he wrote to guide himself. His meditations were private reminders to remain steady in the face of betrayal, grief, illness, and power. He faced war, family tragedy, and political treachery. Not with rage or despair, but with the steady calm of a man who knew that only one thing truly belonged to him: his mind. That insight is available to you here and now, not in theory, but in action. When someone insults you, you can choose your response. When plans fail, you can control your thoughts. When fear rises, you can return to reason. That is the Stoic way. You are not powerless. Not as long as your mind is yours. Realize this and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius, confronting setbacks as Emperor of Rome, offered one of Stoicism's most transformative insights. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. This was not poetic optimism but philosophical clarity, a way of seeing difficulty not as interruption but as instruction. The Stoic doesn't merely endure adversity, they reframe it. When something blocks their path, they ask not, "Why me?" but "What now?" They pivot, adapt, and extract strength from resistance itself. This mindset is especially vital in modern life, where challenges often feel personal, unfair, or catastrophic. But to the Stoic, no challenge is wasted. Every failure teaches resilience. Every rejection develops humility. Every delay cultivates patience. The very thing we believe is stopping us may in fact be forming us. Marcus didn't avoid hardship. He used it to practice virtue. The disease in his family, the betrayals in his court, the uncertainty of war, none of these kept him from his inner work. Instead, they deepened it. In our own lives, obstacles might take the form of illness, heartbreak, lost opportunities, or daily frustration. But what if each one is not a wall, but a doorway to something greater in us? What if difficulty is not our enemy, but our curriculum? The Stoic asks, what virtue does this moment call for? And then applies it. In the face of fear, courage. In the face of insult, patience. In the face of failure, perseverance. By turning adversity into training, the Stoic becomes anti-fragile, growing stronger with each test. This quote is not a motivational slogan. It is a battle-tested principle, born from a man who ruled during plagues, wars, and betrayals. Marcus lived these words, and so can we. When life blocks our plans, we must not retreat. We must adapt. When emotions rise, we must not react. We must respond. The obstacle is not there to break you. It is there to wake you, to teach you, to shape you. And if you meet it with virtue, it becomes the path, not a detour, but the very way forward. In this mindset lies unshakable strength, not because life is easier, but because the Stoic is wiser. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. With this single sentence, Marcus Aurelius strips away excuses, overthinking, and hesitation. It is a call to action, not theory, to embodiment, not debate. The Stoic knows that virtue is not something to be endlessly discussed or philosophized about. It is something to be lived here and now, in every choice we make. In the modern world, we are overwhelmed with opinions about morality, identity, and values. We follow endless debates, read countless books, and watch hours of content about how to live well. But Marcus reminds us that all of it is useless if it doesn't lead to action. You know what's right, so do it. Don't wait to feel ready. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Don't wait for applause or permission, just begin. Every day offers opportunities to be just, disciplined, courageous, and wise. The Stoic does not seek perfection but strives for alignment between principle and action. They do not waste time convincing others of their virtue. They prove it silently through how they live. This quote is a powerful antidote to modern procrastination, perfectionism, and fear of judgment. It reminds us that clarity comes through action, not over-analysis. If you want to be disciplined, start with your morning routine. If you want to be kind, do something generous today. If you want to be strong, face what scares you without delay. Do not ask what virtue looks like, demonstrate it. In the Stoic view, the good life is built not on grand declarations, but on small, consistent, intentional acts. Marcus Aurelius was surrounded by flattery, philosophy, and argument. But in his private writings, he urged himself not to be swayed by talk, not to be distracted by appearances, but to root himself in deeds. Today, we too must turn away from performative goodness and embrace the quiet, persistent practice of being who we claim to be. There is no honor in merely knowing the right thing if it never touches how we treat others, how we speak, how we lead ourselves. So waste no more time. The world needs less talk and more integrity, less show and more substance. Be the good you admire. Begin now. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think. This chilling yet clarifying quote from Marcus Aurelius strikes at the heart of Stoic philosophy. It is a confrontation with mortality, not to inspire fear but urgency. The practice of memento mori, or remembering death, is not meant to be morbid but motivational. It is a call to stop postponing what matters, to stop living as if we are promised a later that may never come. For the Stoic, death is not a distant possibility. It is a present reality, the silent partner that walks beside us every day, shaping how we live, how we choose, how we show up. In modern life, we are encouraged to chase long-term goals, build for the future, and assume we'll have time to make things right. But Marcus's words pull us back to the only moment we truly own. This one. If you knew this day might be your last, what grudges would you drop? What fears would suddenly seem small? What kindness would you no longer postpone? Memento mori doesn't make us fatalistic. It makes us focused. It sharpens our presence, clarifies our values, and strips away the non-essential. We stop wasting time on empty arguments, superficial concerns, or the approval of strangers. We begin to live with urgency and depth, not in a frantic way, but in a deliberate, meaningful one. For the Stoic, this mindset is liberating. It reminds us that our power lies not in controlling how long we live, but in choosing how well we live. Marcus used this reminder as a daily compass, checking his behavior, his thoughts, and his speech against the reality that each day could be his last. And in doing so, he stayed rooted in what mattered most: virtue, duty, and peace. In your own life, this quote can become a morning ritual, a mental reset, a reason to act with courage and integrity when it would be easier to delay. Let the awareness of death not frighten you, but focus you. Speak truth. Choose virtue. Forgive quickly. Love fully. Because someday will come. And when it does, may you meet it not with regret, but with readiness. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. With this single line, Marcus Aurelius redefines what it means to respond to injustice, not with retaliation, not with bitterness, but with unwavering integrity. In a world that often encourages getting even, this quote challenges us to take the higher road, not because it's easy, but because it's right. The Stoic understands that to mirror the behavior of someone who wrongs you is to let them shape your character. It is to hand over your moral compass in exchange for the fleeting satisfaction of vengeance. And while revenge might feel empowering in the moment, it leaves behind a residue of anger, of guilt, of misalignment with the self. The true Stoic does not react to harm by becoming harmful. They do not allow another's cruelty to erode their own clarity. Instead, they stay rooted in virtue, holding fast to who they are, no matter how others behave. This quote is especially relevant today, where public discourse, social media, and personal conflict are often driven by outrage, retaliation, and moral grandstanding. But Marcus reminds us that the greatest triumph is not in humiliating your enemy. It is in refusing to resemble them. It is in walking away with your dignity intact, your values unshaken, and your peace preserved. To the Stoic, the only real revenge is self-mastery. When you are insulted, you respond with silence or kindness. When you are betrayed, you protect your peace rather than seek retribution. When you are provoked, you choose restraint, not because you are weak, but because you are in command. This is not about suppressing emotions, but about rising above them, about placing your character above your craving for revenge. Marcus didn't live in a fantasy world. He led armies, governed Rome, and endured personal betrayals. Yet he returned to this idea repeatedly. To be ruled by others' actions is to be their prisoner. To live by your own code is to be free. The next time you feel wronged, remember, the Stoic doesn't stoop, they stand, they act, not in reaction to others, but in reflection of themselves. Because in the end, revenge fades, but character remains. It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live. With this piercing insight, Marcus Aurelius exposes a quiet tragedy that haunts many lives. Not dying, but never truly living. We plan, prepare, delay, and distract ourselves under the illusion that life starts later. We wait for perfect conditions, for more time, for clarity. But the Stoic sees this waiting as a form of dying, a slow erosion of our one and only chance to engage deeply with existence. The fear of death is natural, but the Stoic transforms that fear into a wake-up call. If life is fleeting, then why squander it on hesitation? If tomorrow is uncertain, then why put off the actions that give life meaning today? The enemy isn't mortality, it's inertia. It's a life spent numbed by routine, dulled by passivity, or hijacked by distractions that disguise themselves as urgency. This quote reminds us that the greatest danger is not what ends life, but what prevents it from ever truly beginning. Indecision, avoidance, wasted time. Marcus was surrounded by the weight of empire, war, and responsibility, yet he still reminded himself of this essential truth. Living fully doesn't mean constant excitement, it means presence. It means doing what matters even when it's difficult. It means waking up to your own power and acting on it before it's too late. In our modern context, this quote cuts through the noise. We live in a time of infinite options, endless scrolling, and constant deferral of purpose. We say, someday I'll... But Marcus would ask, what are you doing now? The Stoic doesn't chase a bucket list. They pursue a meaningful life in ordinary moments, in showing up, in doing their duty, in facing discomfort with courage and joy with gratitude. To fear death is to forget that every day we avoid living is a kind of death itself. The Stoic's response? Begin now. Don't wait for permission, for perfection, for more time. Speak the truth today. Practice the virtue now. Engage with life fully because the end is not the enemy. Wasting the beginning is. You don't need a longer life. You need to stop delaying the one you have. If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. In these two simple commands, Marcus Aurelius outlines the entire moral compass of a Stoic life. No long speeches, no complex ethical systems, just a disciplined filter through which every action and word must pass. For the Stoic, morality is not a matter of opinion or convenience. It is a commitment to integrity that begins with intention and is upheld in behavior. Every moment is a test of character, and Marcus believed that we must hold ourselves to the highest standard, even when no one is watching. Especially when no one is watching. In the modern world, where appearance often matters more than substance, this quote serves as a grounding force. We are constantly tempted to bend the truth for acceptance, to take shortcuts for success, to excuse actions that benefit us at the cost of others. But the Stoic asks, is it right? Is it true? If not, it doesn't belong in your life. There is no room for rationalization in this mindset, only clarity. And that clarity becomes a source of immense inner peace. You no longer need to remember lies, maintain facades, or justify harmful decisions. You are free not because everything is easy, but because your path is clear. Marcus was not speaking from the safety of theory. He was a Roman emperor, surrounded by corruption, power plays, and endless temptations. Yet he wrote this reminder for himself daily, as a shield against the moral erosion that power invites. The Stoic believes that integrity is the one possession that cannot be taken, only surrendered. And once lost, it is far harder to regain than any material wealth. In a world of shifting values, Stoicism offers permanence through principle. Your actions either align with what is right or they do not. Your words either serve truth or they do not. The gray areas dissolve in the light of disciplined introspection. And this self-accountability is not rigid. It is liberating. Because when you live by what is right and true, you walk with certainty. Your conscience is quiet, your steps are firm, and your legacy, whether seen or unseen, is one of honor. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." This is not metaphor, it is a warning, a mirror, and a strategy. The Stoic understands that the mind is not a neutral vessel, but a living canvas that absorbs the content it entertains, and over time those thoughts form the character. What we consistently think becomes what we believe, and what we believe determines how we live. If your thoughts are fearful, your life contracts. If your thoughts are resentful, your relationships sour. But if your thoughts are noble, resilient, and disciplined, your soul will take on their hue and become unshakable. This quote reminds us that we are not passive recipients of emotion or perception. We are the architects of our mindset, and as architects, we must choose our materials with care. In modern life, our attention is constantly under siege. The media we consume, the conversations we engage in, the inner dialogue we allow, all of it stains the soul. The Stoic does not take this lightly. They guard their mind with the same vigilance others guard their homes. They monitor the stream of thoughts with awareness. Is this useful? Is this virtuous? Is this true? They reject envy, fear, and self-pity not through denial but through discipline. They replace them with courage, clarity, and compassion, because those are the colors they want their soul to wear. Marcus didn't have the luxury of a quiet life. He led armies, faced plagues, lost children, and ruled a fracturing empire. Yet he returned to this idea again and again. The quality of his soul depended on the quality of his thoughts. In every moment he had a choice, and so do we. We can choose to entertain bitterness or seek understanding. We can choose to dwell in anxiety or practice preparation. We can color our days with gratitude instead of complaint. These are not surface changes, they are soul-deep transformations. What we allow to dominate our mind will eventually define us. And so the Stoic cultivates a mind of discipline, not indulgence. They paint their soul with virtue. They choose their palette carefully. And in doing so, they become a living portrait of peace, strength, and integrity. When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. In this sentence, Marcus Aurelius offers more than a poetic sentiment. He gives us a daily practice, a spiritual reset that reorients the mind toward gratitude and presence. The Stoic does not begin the day with complaint, anxiety, or dread, but with awareness. I have been given another day. That alone is enough. In modern life, the morning is often a time of stress and racing thoughts, where we're thrown into a whirlwind of tasks, messages, and obligations before we even take a conscious breath. But Marcus calls us to reclaim that first moment of the day, not with noise, but with reflection. The Stoic begins with perspective. You are not owed another morning. You are not guaranteed another chance to think, to speak, to choose. But you have one, right now. And that realization turns routine into reverence. Breathing is no longer automatic. It is a gift. The ability to reason is not taken for granted. It is sacred. To feel love, to express it, to receive it, these are not background experiences, but the essence of being human. Marcus, despite his position and burdens, reminded himself of this every day. His mornings were not free from struggle. He often battled physical pain, political tension, and emotional fatigue. Yet even then he returned to this thought: it is a privilege to be alive, not because life is perfect, but because the chance to live with virtue is always available. Gratitude is not weakness to the Stoic, it is strength. It is the mental discipline to focus on what is instead of what is missing. And when practiced consistently, this morning perspective shapes how the entire day unfolds. A grateful start leads to a centered mind. A centered mind makes wiser choices, and wiser choices build a better life. So tomorrow morning, before you reach for your phone, before the world rushes in, pause, breathe, think. Remember that to be alive is extraordinary, and then begin the day, not with resentment or restlessness, but with a quiet vow to use the time wisely, gratefully, and with virtue. Accept whatever comes to you woven in the pattern of your destiny. For what could more aptly fit your needs? With this closing quote, Marcus Aurelius offers the ultimate Stoic embrace of fate, not as passive surrender, but as the highest act of wisdom. This is amor fati, the love of one's fate, not merely to endure what happens, but to see it as necessary, meaningful, and even right. The Stoic does not fight the river. They learn to swim with its current, adjusting their stroke, conserving their strength, trusting the flow. For Marcus, who faced war, betrayal, illness, and grief, this wasn't just philosophy. It was survival. Accepting fate is not to declare that everything is good, but to affirm that everything is usable. Even sorrow, even failure, even loss can serve our growth if we meet them with the right mindset. To resist fate is to suffer twice, once in the event and again in the refusal. But to accept it with courage is to release the pain of resistance and discover unexpected freedom. In modern life, this quote offers a way to navigate disappointment, change, and uncertainty. Plans fall apart, people leave, outcomes betray expectation. But instead of asking, "Why me?" the Stoic asks, "How can I use this?" They do not seek control over the pattern, they seek alignment with it. The Stoic believes that destiny is not some cosmic script, but the totality of what happens beyond our command. And whatever that is, it becomes the material for virtue. Hardship becomes the training ground for courage. Injustice becomes the test of restraint. Delay becomes the practice of patience. And in this perspective, life stops being a battleground and becomes a path. Difficult, yes, but walkable. Marcus trusted that what fit his destiny also fit his needs. Not always what he wanted, but always what he could use. We can do the same. When things go wrong, remind yourself this is part of it. When you're tested, remember this too fits. And when you look back, perhaps you'll see that every thread, even the dark ones, helped form the strength and wisdom you now carry. This is the Stoic path. Not easy, not soft, but deeply powerful. Accept fate, use it, love it, become greater because of it.